AITA for telling my girlfriend I couldn't stand her after she humiliated me in public? I've been reading revenge stories on this online forum for months, never thinking I'd one day have one of my own to share. Boy, was I wrong. This happened about 4 months ago, and I'm finally ready to tell the whole story. Buckle up, because this is a long one. Let me start by giving you some context about my life, because none of this would make sense without understanding where I was coming from. I, a 29-year-old man, work as a commercial real estate broker in Phoenix. For those who don't know the industry, it's basically feast or famine. You either close big deals and make a lot of money, or you spend months eating ramen noodles. I've been grinding it out in this business for 7 years, building relationships, learning the market, and slowly climbing the ladder. Now, let me tell you about Kelsey. We met 16 months ago at a charity event downtown. She's 26, absolutely gorgeous, and has that Instagram influencer vibe. At the time, she had about 52,000 followers and posted daily lifestyle, fashion, and entrepreneurship content. You know the type. When we started dating, I was honestly surprised someone like her was interested in someone like me. I'm not ugly, but I'm no model either. I'm 5'10" with an average build. And while I dress well for work, you couldn't call me naturally stylish. But Kelsey seemed genuinely into me. She posted stories with me. She talked about how much she loved that I was ambitious and hardworking, and generally, she made me feel like I'd hit the lottery. For the first few months, everything was perfect. The problems started gradually. She would forget her wallet on dates, every single time. There were over 30 dates where I paid for everything. She'd suggest expensive restaurants because the lighting was better for her content, which usually meant $200 or $300 dinners for two. She would hint that she wanted certain designer items because they would elevate her brand aesthetic. What bothered me most was how calculated it all seemed. She'd screenshot designer websites and send them to me with messages like, "This would be perfect for that content shoot we talked about," when we had never discussed it. Or she'd say, "I saw the cutest bag today, but it's just a little out of my budget." Then she'd send me the link to a $1,000 purse. At first, I didn't mind. I was making good money and figured this is what you do when you're dating someone. You take care of them. Besides, she was always talking about how her influence was growing and how she'd be able to contribute more once she really took off. She would show me her growth and engagement analytics like they were financial reports. By the 6-month mark, she had practically moved into my apartment without us ever having that conversation. It started with a toothbrush, then some clothes, and suddenly half my closet was filled with her things. When I brought up the idea of her contributing to rent or utilities, she'd say, "Babe, I'm building something here. This is an investment in our future together." At 8 months, she quit her part-time job at a marketing agency because it was taking away time from growing her platform. She convinced me she was on the verge of landing huge brand deals that would make her self-sufficient. Those deals never materialized, at least not in the way she described them. What I didn't understand at the time was that I wasn't just funding her lifestyle. I was basically running her entire operation. I took about 80% of her photos because she said I had a good eye for composition. I edited them because she didn't know how to use Lightroom or Photoshop. I wrote most of her captions because, frankly, her spelling and grammar were pretty bad. I was also the one responding to brands, negotiating rates, and handling the entire business side of her influencing career. She just showed up, posed, and hit publish. But I was in love, or at least I thought I was. When things were good between us, they were really good. She could be sweet and affectionate and made me feel like the most important person in the world. She'd tell me how lucky she was to have found someone so understanding and supportive. The red flags were there, like the time she posted a TikTok about dating up to grow, where she said successful men made the best partners because they could elevate your lifestyle. Or when she told my friends at a barbecue that she was teaching me how to dress better and be more social. But the biggest sign should have been how she talked about money. It was always our apartment, our car, our vacations. But when it came time to pay for something, it was suddenly my responsibility because I was the one with a stable income. She had this way of making me feel guilty for even bringing up finances. "I can't believe you're being so cheap about money," she'd say. "I thought you loved me for me, not for what I can contribute financially." I was in too deep to see what was really happening. I had already spent over $60,000 maintaining her lifestyle, and I kept thinking that if I just held on a little longer, she would start contributing or at least show some appreciation for everything I did. Instead, she just became more demanding. By month 14, she was openly talking about me as if I were her personal assistant. She'd tell her friends, "Grayson handles all the boring stuff, so I can focus on creating content." She started dictating where we would go for dinner based on which location would look best in pictures. She would criticize my apartment's decor because it didn't fit her aesthetic. The breaking point should have been when she posted an Instagram story saying some people are builders and some people are maintainers, and you have to know which one you're dating. The implication was pretty clear about which category she placed me in, but I stayed because I'm an idiot who thought love was supposed to be hard work. It all came crashing down at the most important business event of my life. Our Southwest Commercial Real Estate Association hosts an annual gala every October. It's the biggest networking event of the year. All the major developers, investors, and brokers in the Southwest attend. It's where deals are made, partnerships are formed, and careers are launched. This year was special for me because I was being honored as the Rising Star Broker of the Year for my sales volume. But more importantly, my whale client, the retail chain I had been cultivating for over a year, was going to be there. The CEO was flying in specifically for this event, and we had planned to close a $15 million deal that very night. This wasn't just any client. This company had over 300 locations nationwide and was planning a massive expansion into the Southwest. Representing them exclusively would mean millions in commissions over the next 5 years. It was, quite literally, a career-defining opportunity. I had prepared for months. I researched every executive who would be attending. I prepared talking points on market trends and even hired a stylist to make sure I looked the part. This was my chance to go from being a successful broker to becoming a major player in the industry. Qley was excited about the event, but for all the wrong reasons. She kept talking about how amazing it would be for her content and how she'd finally get to meet all the wealthy people I worked with. She spent weeks planning her outfit, which cost me $800, and had already started posting Instagram stories about attending Phoenix's most exclusive business event. The morning of the event, I should have seen the warning signs. She spent 4 hours getting ready and was clearly nervous about making a good impression. But her nervousness wasn't about supporting me or representing our relationship well. It was about how she would be perceived by the important people. "This is going to be so good for my brand," she kept saying. "Do you think any of them will want to collaborate with me on sponsored content?" I tried to explain that this was a business event, not a social media opportunity, but she wasn't listening. She was already planning her Instagram posts and asked me to take photos of her as she got ready. When we arrived at the venue, a gorgeous ballroom at the Phoenician Resort, she immediately started taking selfies and asking me for pictures in front of the entrance banner. The other attendees were staring, and not in a good way. The first hour was fine. She was charming during cocktail hour, asking people about their businesses and complimenting the other wives on their dresses. I started to relax and thought maybe I was overthinking it. Then my client arrived. The CEO, let's call him Mr. Reynolds, was exactly the kind of old-school businessman you'd expect: conservative, serious, and not interested in small talk. He had brought his equally traditional wife and his head of expansion, who would be my primary contact if we closed the deal. I introduced Qley to the group, and she immediately launched into a rehearsed speech about her content creation business and how she was building a lifestyle brand based on authentic luxury experiences. Mrs. Reynolds looked confused. Mr. Reynolds looked politely uninterested. The head of expansion was checking his phone, but Qley kept going. "Grayson has been so supportive of my entrepreneurial journey. He's basically my business partner and investor all in one. It's amazing to have a boyfriend who understands that building a brand takes time and resources." I tried to steer the conversation back to business, but Qley latched onto Mrs. Reynolds and wouldn't let go. "I would love to feature some of the properties Grayson sells on my Instagram. My audience is really interested in luxury real estate content. Do you think there could be collaboration opportunities here?" Mr. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. This was not the conversation he had flown in for. "Qley," I said quietly, "maybe we should let them enjoy their dinner." "Oh, I'm not bothering anyone. We're just having some girl talk, right, Mrs. Reynolds?" Mrs. Reynolds smiled politely, but was clearly looking for an escape. That's when Qley truly went off the rails. What happened next will haunt me for the rest of my career. Qley was growing frustrated that she wasn't the center of attention. This wasn't her typical Instagram crowd. These were serious business people talking about market trends and property values. She was clearly feeling out of place and was overcompensating by trying to make everything about her. "You know what's funny?" she said, loud enough for half the table to hear. Grayson practices his sales pitches in the mirror at home. Full-on conversations with himself. It's almost adorable, like watching a little kid play businessman. The entire table fell silent. I could see Mr. Reynolds' head of expansion literally stopped chewing. Those pitches she was talking about were my rehearsals for this specific meeting. I had spent weeks preparing to discuss the market analysis and expansion strategy that would convince Mr. Reynolds to sign with me. "Kelsey, maybe we should—" "Oh, and he takes everything so seriously," she interrupted. "He spends hours researching every little detail about a property or a client. I'm always telling him he needs to relax more and just rely on his natural charm." Mrs. Reynolds was now openly staring at her with a look of horror. The head of expansion had pulled out his phone and was typing something, probably notes on this disaster. "Grayson is always talking about building relationships and establishing trust," Kelsey continued, making air quotes with her fingers. "And I'm like, babe, you're just selling buildings, you're not performing brain surgery. Sometimes I think he takes this job way too seriously." Mr. Reynolds set his fork down on his plate with a soft clink that, in the ensuing silence, sounded deafening. That last comment hit me like a physical blow. This job wasn't just my career, it was my passion, my identity, and the result of 7 years of grinding to build my reputation. And she had just reduced it to taking selling buildings too seriously. "Kelsey, please stop." "What?" "I'm just sharing how cute you are. Everyone thinks it's sweet." I looked around the table. No one thought it was sweet. Mr. Reynolds looked uncomfortable. His wife was whispering something to him. The head of expansion had put his phone away and was watching the whole thing like a car crash. "And you know the best part," Kelsey said, completely misreading the room. "He thinks this deal tonight is going to change our whole lives. He's been talking about it for months like it's the most important thing in the world. I keep telling him there will always be other opportunities, but he's so obsessed with this one client." She gestured toward Mr. Reynolds. "No offense," she added, speaking directly to him. "But Grayson has built you up so much in his head, I was expecting someone more impressive. I mean, you seem nice, but he talks about you like you're some kind of business celebrity." Absolute silence. Mr. Reynolds put down his fork and looked directly at me. "Grayson, perhaps we should schedule a follow-up meeting next week to discuss the details." I knew what that meant. In business speak, it was, "This meeting is over, and I'm not sure I want to work with you." "Mr. Reynolds, no need to explain." He cut me off, standing up. "We all have personal situations that require our attention. Mrs. Reynolds, let's go visit the Johnsons." They got up and left. I just sat there, watching the biggest opportunity of my career walk away while Kelsey was still talking to the remaining people about how many followers she had on Instagram. "I don't get why everyone's so serious," she said to no one in particular. "This is supposed to be a fun event, isn't it?" That's when she uttered the words that changed everything. "Grayson, you're being weird again. If you can't handle me being myself at these things, just say so." The whole ballroom seemed to fall quiet. I could feel eyes turning to our table, so I said it. "I can't stand you." Kelsey laughed like I had just told the funniest joke in the world. "See, he's so dramatic." "Grayson, you're such a clown. Tell everyone you're kidding." "I'm not kidding, Kelsey. I really can't stand you." The smile vanished from her face. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said. I can't do this anymore." She looked around the table, at the few people remaining, then back at me. "You're embarrassing me." "I'm embarrassing you?" "Yes, everyone is looking at us." "They're looking at us because you just told my most important client that I practice my pitches in the mirror and that he isn't impressive enough for your standards." I was just being funny. "God, you have no sense of humor anymore." I stood up from the table. "I'm going home." "Grayson, sit down. You're making a scene." "No. Kelsey, you made the scene." "I'm just leaving." I walked out of that ballroom knowing I had probably just lost the biggest deal of my career. The drive home was silent, except for Kelsey's increasingly desperate attempts to justify what had happened. "Okay, so maybe I said a little too much, but you're overreacting. Those people will forget about it by tomorrow." I didn't respond. "Grayson, talk to me. You can't just shut down like this." When we got back to my apartment, she immediately tried to downplay what had happened. Look, I get that you're upset, but you're being way too sensitive about this. It's not like I said anything that wasn't true. That's when I realized she truly didn't understand what she had done. To her, she had just been telling cute stories about her boyfriend. She had no concept of professional reputation, business relationships, or the years of work that had led to that moment. Kelsey, I think you should pack a bag and go stay with Jenna for a few days. What? What? Because I need some space to figure out what I'm going to do with my career after tonight. You're being dramatic again. One awkward dinner isn't going to ruin your career. It wasn't just an awkward dinner. You insulted my client to his face and made me look completely unprofessional. I didn't insult anyone. I was being friendly. That's when I knew the relationship was over. She literally could not comprehend why her behavior had been inappropriate. Pack a bag, Kelsey, please. Fine, but this is ridiculous. You'll realize tomorrow that you're overreacting. She threw some clothes into a tote bag and left for her friend Jenna's place. I thought she'd be back in a day or two, once she calmed down, and we could have a rational conversation about boundaries and respect. Instead, she blew up on social media. On Sunday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. Kelsey had posted a series of Instagram stories about her controlling boyfriend, who had kicked her out for being herself and was trying to silence her voice. She also reposted several photos that I had taken and edited, claiming they were examples of her work and how she was building something beautiful that toxic people wanted to tear down. But that's where she made her fatal error. In her anger, she also posted screenshots of conversations with her friends where she was bragging about how I funded her entire lifestyle and that she never had to worry about money because Grayson handles all of it. She had basically posted exact proof of what our relationship was really like. I saved screenshots of everything before she could delete it. Then I got to work. I'm detail-oriented by nature. In commercial real estate, you have to be. Every contract, every negotiation, every client interaction is documented. Without realizing it, I had been documenting Kelsey's entire operation for over a year. First, I compiled all the evidence, photos I'd taken, captions I'd written, emails I sent on her behalf, receipts for everything I bought for her brand. I created a complete file showing exactly how much of her content and business I had actually managed. Then I started making calls. Kelsey had 3 active brand partnerships at the time. A skincare company that paid her $500 per post, a clothing boutique that gave her free merchandise, and a jewelry brand that paid her $200 per post plus a commission on sales. I contacted the marketing departments of each company and forwarded them the emails showing how I had initiated contact, negotiated the deals, and wrote the sponsored content they had been paying for. I also included Kelsey's screenshots bragging about not having to work because I handled everything. The responses were swift and devastating. The skincare company replied in under 2 hours, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We were under the impression we were working with an independent creator, not a managed account. We will be terminating this partnership immediately." The clothing boutique was even more direct. This is exactly the kind of inauthentic influencer relationship we specifically avoid. Partnership canceled, effective immediately. The jewelry brand requested a conference call, which turned into an interrogation about the extent of my involvement in Kelsey's content creation. When I explained that I had been handling virtually her entire operation while she took the credit, they not only canceled the partnership, but also asked if I'd be interested in professionally managing their influencer marketing campaigns. Next, I went after the intellectual property. All those photos Kelsey was so proud of. I had taken about 85% of them. The copyright was mine, and she had been using them commercially without attribution or compensation. I spent an entire weekend going through her Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, cataloging every single photo I had taken. I had the original raw files on my hard drive with metadata showing when and where they were shot. I created a detailed spreadsheet with links to each post, the date it was uploaded, and proof of my ownership. I filed DMCA takedown requests with Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for every single photo I could prove was mine. Within 48 hours, her carefully curated feed was missing about half its content, but I was just getting started. You see, Kelsey's whole lifestyle brand was built on the illusion of financial independence and success. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, luxury travel all funded by me. I had receipts for everything. I created a spreadsheet documenting every single purchase I made for her over 16 months. Designer bags, jewelry, clothes, dinners, vacation travel, gym memberships, her phone bill, her car insurance, beauty treatments, photography equipment, editing software subscriptions, all of it. The grand total, $73,000. I sent this to Qley with a simple invoice, payment for brand development and lifestyle management services. Amount due, $73,000. Payment due within 30 days. Her response was immediate and predictable. Are you insane? I'm not paying you for being a good boyfriend. My reply, these weren't gifts. According to your own social media posts, this was funding for your business operations. Businesses pay their contractors. I also sent copies of the invoice to her parents and her friend Jenna, along with a note explaining that Qley had been representing our relationship as a business partnership rather than a romantic one, and I was simply following her logic. Then I got creative with the services. Qley still had keys to my apartment and was technically still living there, even though she had been staying at Jenna's for a week. She would come by during the day to use the Wi-Fi for posting content, showering, and changing clothes. I had the locks changed. I also canceled the premium cable package she used for background music in her content. I downgraded to a basic internet plan that couldn't support video uploads and changed all the streaming service passwords. But the masterstroke was still to come. While I was systematically dismantling Qley's influencer operation, something unexpected happened with my career. On Monday morning, I got a call from my managing broker. He had been at the awards gala and witnessed the entire disaster. Grayson, we need to talk. I thought I was about to lose my job. I've been in this business for 25 years, he said, and I've seen a lot of promising careers get destroyed by personal drama. But I've also seen how someone handles a crisis, and that tells me everything I need to know about their character. Sir, I'm so sorry about, let me finish. Mr. Reynolds called me yesterday. My blood ran cold. He wanted to know more about you, specifically. He wanted to know if the way you handled that situation was representative of how you handle pressure in general. I didn't know what to say. I told him that in 7 years, I have never seen you lose your cool with a difficult client, never make a promise you couldn't keep, and never let personal issues affect your professionalism. He was impressed that you didn't make excuses or try to blame anyone else for what happened. So what does that mean? It means he wants to move forward with the deal. In fact, he's expanding the scope. They want you to handle their entire Southwest expansion, not just the Phoenix properties. I almost dropped the phone. Grayson, sometimes the worst moments in our personal lives reveal the best parts of our character. Mr. Reynolds saw someone who could remain calm under pressure and take ownership of a difficult situation. Those are the exact qualities they're looking for in someone to manage a $50 million expansion project. I was speechless. The new contract was for exclusive representation of their entire regional expansion. We're talking 15 to 20 properties over the next 3 years. My commission went from a potential $450,000 to potentially $2.8 million. It was the best Monday of my life. But Qley wasn't done fighting. On Tuesday morning, she showed up at my office building. The security guard called up to my desk to let me know I had a visitor. Tell her I'm in meetings all day and can't see anyone without an appointment. She says she's your fiancé and it's a family emergency. Fiancé? The audacity was unbelievable. We had never even officially talked about moving in together, let alone marriage. Tell her I am not engaged and there is no family emergency. If she won't leave voluntarily, please call building security. 20 minutes later, my colleague Tyler stopped by my office. Hey man, there was some woman downstairs claiming you abandoned her and stole her business. Security had to escort her out. Everything okay? Word travels fast in a professional building. By lunchtime, 3 different people had asked me if I was going through a bad breakup because apparently Qley was telling anyone who would listen in the lobby that I was financially abusing her. An hour later, she was posting Instagram stories from the parking garage, claiming I was hiding behind security and refusing to face the consequences of my actions. She recorded herself crying in her car, saying that powerful men think they can destroy women who speak the truth. The comments on that story were fascinating. Her remaining followers were split between supporting her and calling her out. Several had apparently connected the dots about the sudden drop in her content quality and were asking directly who had really been creating her posts. That evening, Jenna called me. Grayson, you have to take Kelsey back. She's been on my couch for a week and my roommate is threatening to move out. That's not my problem anymore. She says you stole all her content and ruined her business relationships. I protected my intellectual property and informed her partners of our true working relationship. She's talking about getting legal help. Tell her I'd be happy to present all of my documentation in court. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Kelsey's lawyer. We need to talk about your theft of my client's property and the illegal eviction from her residence. I forwarded it to a lawyer friend of mine who called me back laughing. This isn't from a real lawyer. Lawyers don't text from personal phones, and they definitely don't use terms like illegal eviction for someone who was never on a lease. She's bluffing. Wednesday morning, Kelsey made her final, desperate play. She showed up at the restaurant where I was having a business lunch with Mr. Reynolds and his team to finalize our expanded contract. I saw her walk in and immediately excused myself from the table. Kelsey, what are you doing here? I'm trying to save your career. I talked to some people and explained that you've been under a lot of stress and haven't been thinking clearly. I can fix this. What people did you talk to? I reached out to some of the wives from the other night and explained our situation. They understand that relationships have their ups and downs. I glanced back at my table. Mr. Reynolds was watching us with interest, but he didn't look alarmed. Kelsey, you need to leave now. No, not until you stop this childish behavior and admit that we're meant to be together. You know you can't handle your career without me supporting you. It was then that I realized she actually believed she had been helping my career rather than damaging it. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. This woman is not my fiancée, she is not my business partner, and she is not currently welcome in my home. If anyone knows her personally and can assist her in finding suitable lodging, I would appreciate it, as I am not responsible for her housing situation. The entire restaurant went silent. Kelsey's face turned bright red. You will regret this. I made you successful. Without me, you're just another boring real estate broker. Restaurant security escorted her out as she screamed about lawsuits and how I had stolen her life's work. I sat back down with Mr. Reynolds, expecting him to be appalled. Instead, he looked thoughtful. Grayson, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. How long did you support her financially? About 16 months, and she never contributed to household expenses or the costs of her own business. He nodded slowly. Gentlemen, I think we found the right person to handle our expansion. Someone who can identify unprofitable relationships and cut losses with that kind of determination will do very well managing our investment portfolio. We signed the expanded contract that afternoon. For the next month, things were relatively quiet. Kelsey had apparently moved back in with her parents about 2 hours outside of Phoenix. Her Instagram went mostly dormant, except for occasional posts about learning to value herself and finding out who her real friends were. I thought it was over. I should have known better. 6 weeks after the restaurant incident, I got a call from an unknown number. Grayson, it's Kelsey. How did you get this number? I'm in serious trouble. I need your help. Not my problem. Please, just listen for 1 minute. I'm being audited by the IRS. Apparently, when I was claiming payments from brand deals as business income, I was also supposed to claim the money you were giving me as income. They're saying I owe $35,000 in back taxes and penalties. I couldn't help but smile a little. That sounds like a personal finance issue. Grayson, I can't pay this. My parents found out about the tax problems and kicked me out. Jenna won't let me stay with her after what happened at your office. I'm literally living out of my car. Again, not my responsibility. But you caused this. If you hadn't sent that spreadsheet to my partners, none of this would have happened. Kelsey, you filed incorrect tax returns. That's not on me. I didn't know how taxes worked. You always handled all the complicated stuff. I'm not good with numbers or legal things. The irony was unbelievable. For 16 months, she had bragged to everyone about being an entrepreneur and running her own business. Yet she never learned how any of it actually worked. I've been trying to figure it out for weeks, she continued, her voice cracking. I went to 3 different tax prep places, and they all told me the same thing. I owe money I don't have for income one didn't know I had to report. So, you're learning about consequences. Grayson, please. I know I messed up. I know I said horrible things about you and ruined your career, but I'm desperate. I've applied for jobs, but no one wants to hire someone with a tax lien. I'm applying for waitressing positions and getting turned down because of my social media presence. There it was. The very social media presence she had bragged so much about was now preventing her from getting a basic job. "I'll do anything," she said, sobbing. "I'll pay you back every cent. I'll sign anything you want. I'll make a public apology for everything I said. I'm listening. I'll post a video explaining that you were an amazing boyfriend and that I was selfish and ungrateful. I'll tell everyone I lied about you being controlling and that you were actually generous to a fault. Go on. I'll delete every negative post about you. I'll block your number after this so you never have to hear from me again. I'll completely disappear from your life, and in return, just help me with the tax thing. Maybe co-sign on an apartment so I'm not homeless. I swear I'll pay you back when I get on my feet." The desperation in her voice was, honestly, pathetic. "Kelsey, let me explain something to you. For 16 months, I gave you everything: money, support, love, business opportunities. I built your lifestyle and your career from the ground up. And the one time I needed you to simply not embarrass me in front of my most important client, you couldn't do it. I know I'm not finished. When I tried to end things respectfully, you went on social media and tried to destroy my reputation. You called me controlling and abusive. You lied to thousands of people about our relationship. I was hurt. And now, after all that, after facing the natural consequences of your own actions, you want me to bail you out again." Long silence. "Please, Grayson, I have nowhere else to go. I realize now how good I had it with you. You should have realized that before you decided you were too good for a simple real estate broker. I never said that. You said it in the restaurant in front of my client." Silence. "Here's what's going to happen, Kelsey. You're going to figure this out on your own, like an adult. The same way I learned how to build a career while supporting your lifestyle, the same way I'm now learning how to rebuild my reputation after you tried to destroy it. Grayson, I don't know how to do any of that. Then you'll learn, just like everyone else does. But I'll lose everything. You already lost everything when you decided that humiliating me was more important than respecting me. Please, and Kelsey, the next time you date someone, try to bring something to the table other than your Instagram follower count." I hung up and blocked the number. 2 days later, she posted the apology video she had promised. It was surprisingly thorough. She admitted to lying about me. She explained how supportive I had been of her career development and took full responsibility for the incident at the business gala. She also announced she was stepping away from social media to focus on personal growth and financial responsibility. Her Instagram account went completely dormant after that. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she eventually got a job as a waitress at a chain restaurant near her parents' house and moved in with roommates. Apparently, she's working 2 jobs to pay off her tax debt and has given up the influencer lifestyle entirely. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.